Hello everyone and welcome to Tuesday 15th July 2025. Let's get straight to the point. We're going to start off with the weekly. Okay, so the weekly, as we know from yesterday, the YM apologies, get my bearings there. So the YM actually took the weekly FVG. The low of the week was not taken on NQ or ES. So we had an SMT there. We were looking for longs, went long, and as expected, the long kept going and took the previous week high on NQ and ES. And we will move to the daily. So the daily is showing us that this is the Tuesday. It took the all-time high and previous week high, and it closed not that low from where it opened. ES and YM had the greater length of close. So YM, because it didn't take the all-time high or the previous week high, had decided that, hey, I need more liquidity, more of a drop than NQ and ES, and thus it's gone and taken the low, previous day low. So the better entry would have been on YM, but we'll take a look at 30-minute to see what the setup was. So what had happened was we had, let's bring that in. So we had open there, tapped straight into 4-hour FVG, and at 9:30 Asia, we've had a big move and to take out the previous week high and all-time high. And then we can see that YM did not do that. But in fact, it went and tackled the 4-hour FVG, so it tapped into that, and we didn't see any closure to come below the open except for YM. So it was weaker of these two, because these two kept raiding the highs, and then we had that massive SMT because it was raiding the highs. And it was CPI day, so we can see that this 30-minute FVG not tapped into, and this 30-minute FVG one tap was my target if it wanted to come for a short, and it looks like it arrived in the last hour, so that would have been a long wait. But this was my target here, and then this was my target here for this. And my target, if you remember from yesterday, is this 30-minute FVG that was not tapped, whereas it was tapped for NQ. So NQ has less chances or the need to come back down here because it's already raided it, whereas NQ and YM and ES did not, so that's a big target for them. And considering it had a weaker of the three, YM would be the most likely to go and tap that, and it certainly did that, which is right here. So well, let's look at some entries then. So we had 8:30, which is the manipulation, and the manipulation's happening here. As the manipulation's happening, we are now looking for an expansion from 9:30 onwards. So let's see if there's an entry. Now I tend to use the ones that have raided, right? So these ones have raided the data highs, which is the 8:30 highs and lows, because that was the CPI. So this is CPI liquidity. that data high was taken on NQ, and it wasn't taken on ES, it was taken on YM, but again, we know YM is the weakest of them all. So now we want to look for an entry, and so we have this 30-minute FVG right here that was never tapped into, right? And so we'll bring that back here. And also if we should bring it back to about there, we can see it was above 9:30, above 8:30, above midnight. And if we're expecting 8:30 to manipulate, we want 9:30 to go in and expand. Now expansion, when I see it close below that 30-minute FVG, and there's also this FVG, which after it raids and then closes below it, you want to probably try and get entry there to aim for the data lows. Or if you're waiting for the longer move, the expansion move, it tends to raid the ones that have come back into the FVG, which is right here. So I was expecting this to be raided here, and then I was going to take it down to this 30-minute FVG that has not been tapped into, because that would have been my target. Again, because it was the sickly sister, I guess, it wasn't going to do the moves directly or straight away as ES and YM were going to do that. So the entry would have been, so you'd really look for a breaker structure or entry here for ES, so when that time occurs. So I did wait for the first 15-minute to close, and it closed below that FVG. So now I'm looking for a retracement into discount, which is at 0.5, take an entry there, and then you can partial out here, wait for further targets. But it had come and tapped me out there. Now you can wait here to see if there's any momentum to move downwards, because that is where the draw was for all three of them, really. So if you look at the draws for ES, was really this 30-minute FVG that has not been tapped into, and this 30-minute FVG that had been tapped into, and I was waiting for this one, and it did give me that tap, which is awesome. And then in YM, we had this 30-minute FVG that has not been tapped into, and there was a previous week low, and then the week open. So this FVG was the key one. So if it came and tapped into there, which it did at around 11 o'clock. So what would have been the entry there is, again, like I said, so if that was my entry there at 9:45, then 9:45 would be here. This would have been my entry, because that's where that 50% came in. So you could have taken that on ES at 9:45, right? And if your target was here, then you could probably aim for 1 to 2, or whatever your risk reward is, and that would have been the same here. Is that 9:45 reached the target entry point? So I was waiting for that. Again, we were looking for shorts as an expansion, so you could have worked it like that and taken entries on S&P and Dow Jones, or you could have taken it here. I did do a trade from here, and then it tapped me out right there for break even, and then I look for another entry down back into there. Ideally, I was aiming for the 30-minute FVG with a single tap, and then if we let this play on, and again there was a previous week an all-time high here as well, which was another exit point you can take because the Asia had taken it. So you can see this FVG gets tapped into multiple times, and then finally it decides to, hey, I need to go tap that. And there you go. And that was at the end of the day. So that was an example of a manipulation, 830, and then we wanted an expansion. So you could have taken that trade, or you could have taken the same trade here, because it was the stronger one to aim for the liquidity, because it did not take the 830 data high. And then this was even stronger because it didn't take the all-time high. So it needed more money, so it had to keep going lower and lower, whereas these had already taken as much liquidity as they could by taking the all-time high. So yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.